Okay, this is our second video on faulty sentences. This one's on fragments. The previous one was on run-ons. Fragments are incomplete sentences. Incomplete sentences happen in three basic ways. So let's start. When we examine a sentence, we ask two major questions, and that is, where's the subject and where's the main verb? So we look at this, what looks like a sentence, Steve running through the tunnel, and we ask where's the subject, and Steve is there. And we ask where's the main verb, but we find that running is not a main verb. An ing verb or word has to have a be verb with it in order for it to be a main verb. So this is a fragment. Runs through the tunnel fails the first test, where's the subject? There is no subject, so this is a fragment. Now we look at, because Steve is running through the tunnel, we have a subject, Steve, and we ask where's the main verb, and we have that, because it's running through the tunnel. However, we have because at the beginning of the sentence, and that is a subordinator. Subordinators make dependent clauses, so this is a fragment. So, quick review of fragments. A sentence must express a complete idea and have a subject and a verb. So, runs through the tunnel has no subject. Steve running through the tunnel has no verb. And because Steve is running through the tunnel is an incomplete idea. Now let's look at fragments in a little more detail. Ing words without be verbs cannot be a main verb. So, running in the middle of the park is a fragment. We can correct that by putting a subject and a be verb with it. Steve is running in the middle of the park. Or by adding a ing word group to an independent clause, such as running in the middle of the park. She exercises and enjoys the fresh air in nature. Or she exercises and enjoys the fresh air in nature by running in the middle of the park. Because can cause problems in some of the other subordinators. In this particular one, she won the race because, and we're missing something right after the because, and that is a subject here, she. So we must have a subject in a dependent clause or subordinate clause. Phrase fragments also occur when we have a group of words that's missing a subject or a verb or both, so it cannot stand alone as a sentence. When you punctuate a phrase as if it is a sentence, you create a fragment. So I tried everything I could think of to get an A, such as bribing the professor. Such as bribing the professor is a phrase. So we correct it by adding it to an independent clause. For example, fragments cause problems in our writing. And here's an example of a for example, where for example is followed by a list of clubs and organizations. So we have a fragment. It fails first question, where's the subject? And it fails the second question, where's the verb? Now we can correct it by adding a subject and verb. This college has a French club, etc. Or by adding simply a verb and making the clubs and organizations the subject. Or, since it is a list, we could simply change the semicolon to a comma, and add the list to an independent clause. Dependent clauses, which are clauses that depend on an independent clause to make a complex sentence, are a group of words that contains a subject and verb but start with a subordinating conjunction or a relative pronoun, and so this clause doesn't express a complete thought. So here is an example of a dependent clause fragment. I kept working on my essay, although I was tired, and we correct it by getting rid of the period and adding it to an independent clause. Now, a common trap that some writers fall into is that if you have a lot of words, you don't necessarily have a complete sentence. So although I have tried many ways to get an A, such as trying to pay off the professor and offering to carry her books to class each day and assuring her that I love my writing class more than life itself, this is a fragment. We can correct it by simply adding a subject and verb. But you knew that, right? Because you remember that a sentence is not complete or correct unless it has a subject, it has a verb, and it expresses a complete thought. Well, thank you.